Hey everybody, good evening. I hope you all are doing well and you're having a good Monday, that it hasn't been too Monday-ish, and that your weekend was fun. We got to go to the beach last week and it was awesome. And this week we're back in full swing and I am ready to talk about meal planning prep. So getting dinner on the table is always a challenge as a busy mom, and so I'm hoping that these top 10 tips will give you some ideas to help ease your load, that's going to help you to feel less busy and be able to get better, healthier, easier dinners on the table, stress less, all that good stuff. So I'm going to move through these kind of fast. So if you miss them, head back and watch the replay later. It won't be too long, won't take you too long. So enjoy. All right, so I'm going to pull up my little notes right here so I don't leave any out. All right, number one. See if I can do this without like putting it in my face every time. Number one is plan your meals so that you know what you need to prep. I know. Not everybody likes to plan their meals ahead of time, like I do. But if you at least have a general idea of what you're going to be making, say in the next few days, you can go ahead and plan your prep time. So not just what you're going to eat, but how you're going to get it on the table. You know, is it a crock pot meal that you need to prepare in the morning? Is it something that you need to do an hour beforehand? Is it something that you need to marinate something the previous day or thaw overnight? Kind of going ahead and knowing what you've got planned is going to allow you to incorporate that meal prep into the rest of your day and not feel like you're having to panic and rush at the last minute because something isn't thawed or whatever. Okay, so number two, very similar. Consider your calendar and your schedule when you are meal prepping. So this goes kind of two ways. So think about it as, first of all, you're working around your calendar, because if you're going to like the pool on Thursday morning, then you probably don't want to be doing a lot of heavy meal prep Thursday morning. But if you know you've got something until 5 p.m. on Friday, then you probably might want to have a crock pot or something meal going so that you don't have to prepare when you get home. So work around your schedule, work around your calendar. And then the flip side of that being kind of what we just talked about, like making sure that you schedule time into your day to do the meal prep. So if you're going to do a crock pot meal, you actually have to set aside time for that if you want to get it done, because don't make the mistake I've made many times, which is starting to do the crock pot or, put a crock pot meal on the calendar, and then I'm rushing around all morning and then I don't get in the crock pot, and then I'm stressing out because then I don't have any dinner ready, and then what am I going to do? And it's just not worth it. But if I had set aside time in that morning and said, oh, I need to do this crock pot meal, it's going to take me 30 minutes or whatever, even though we know that's all laughable when there's little kids around. But if I'd at least included it in my morning plan, then I would be a whole lot less likely to not get it in. So number three, strategize to include the kids or don't, whichever way you choose. If you choose to include the kids, think about the things that they can do. We made a strawberry salad this afternoon, and the kids cut up strawberries and dumped in some almonds, and they cut up some of the spinach until they totally lost interest in that because that was not as much fun apparently. And then they helped stir it up. So being able to know that they could do those little things, I was able to incorporate them into the meal planning. But there are definitely other days where there's either, I'm in a rush, or the meal is just complicated, or it's a new recipe and I just need my brain power, when I plan to not have them involved. So I plan to have an activity or a TV show or to prep while they're, outside or whatever it might be, so that I can get that done. Whether or not they're involved. They love to be involved, but as we know, it's not always beneficial for everybody. So number four, pre-cut or prep ingredients that you can freeze or store for later. One of my favorites for this is onions. I hate cutting onions. I so hate cutting onions. I need to get one of those little like chopper things that just does the onions. Yeah, because I hate cutting onions. Anyways, what I tend to do is have a bunch of them when they're in season, cut them up, and one moment. Cut them up and freeze them in, approximately one medium onion sized portion. And then I pull them out of the freezer, and usually I can dump them into almost anything I'm doing just straight from frozen. Obviously, there's a few things that doesn't work with, but if I'm sauteing something or using them in a recipe or, putting them in the crock pot or whatever, like they pretty much can go in frozen and they'll cook just fine. And then I don't have to cook or, chop them every time. So I may be chopping onions for like a ridiculous amount of time, but it's only once and then I have them. Onions are awesome for you, especially for your immune system. So I like to include the fresh onions when I can, but I'm much more likely to do it if I prep it ahead of time. So all that to say, you can find ways to store fruit, you can store herbs, you can make ahead smoothies, you can freeze extra meat. One of the things I love to do is get like a rotisserie chicken, already made, cut it up, and freeze that, because then I can literally just like dump the chicken in with other things and saute them up together, and then I have a meal if I need to, especially if, I need something last minute. So pre-cut and prep your ingredients. So far what we've got is number 1, plan your meals so you know what you need to prep. Number 2, consider your calendar and your schedule when you are meal prepping or planning your meal prep. Number 3, strategize to use the kids or don't, or include the kids, not use the kids, include the kids. Number 4, pre-cut or prep ingredients ahead of time that you can freeze and store for later. Let's see, I didn't directly put this in there, but I will say also with that number 4, this includes things like if you could go ahead and like cut up the fruit for the week for the kids, or, if you have a vegetable that repeats later in the week, like go ahead and cut it all up at once and then have that ready for next time. Or even if you're cutting a bunch of veggies for a recipe today and you've also got some tomorrow, like just go ahead and do it all at once if you can, so that you don't have to get everything back out and start all over again. Just these little things that can kind of help combine your tasks. That whole, like, if you've heard of time blocking, it's kind of the same idea, so that you've got less meal prep time in the long run. All right, so number 5, I can do this, 5, there we go. Number 5, prepare a few rounds of freezer meals. Freezer meals are amazing. You can find 1,000,001 recipes out there. You can look on Pinterest, you can Google them. There are so many different freezer meals out there, everything from casseroles to things you dump in the crock pot. Freezer meals are fantastic. So if you have a few freezer meals ready to go in your freezer, obviously, it allows you to prep a whole bunch of meals at one time, put them in the freezer, pull them out when you're ready, and it's a lot less prep time in the moment. So again, that blocking it all together so that you can have them ready for pulling out and not having to do a lot on a particular day. And on a related note, number 6 is fall in love with your crock pot and or your Instant Pot. I love both for different reasons. I don't find my Instant Pot to be a fabulous crock pot, so I actually have both. It's not great for space saving, but I really like the functions that each one does, and I really like being able to use both because there are times when I have both going at the same time. Learn to use them, especially the fact that you can make things ahead of time, stick it in crock pot or Instant Pot or whatever. And one of my favorite things is if you have a programmable one. I love my programmable functions so that you can set it ahead of time and you're not having to cook last minute. Because if you're anything like me, I am so tired by 4 o'clock that getting up the gumption to cook sometimes is really hard. So if you've already prepped it, if you've already got it in, crock pot, Instant Pot, beautiful things. Okay, so number 7, Batch cook and freeze the extra. So kind of related back to number 4, where we talked about pre-cutting and prepping the ingredients, but this is for the whole meal. So when I cook a meal, I almost always make at least double, if not triple the recipe. We've got a family of 4, and 2 of them are little, so making a recipe of that size gives us a lot of extra servings. We use those for lunches, occasionally breakfasts. We use those we usually do at least 1 or 2, sometimes 3 leftover nights every week. And then if I have enough, I'll also freeze some, and I freeze it in like a portion sizes sometimes. Well, depends on the meal. Sometimes it's portion sizes, sometimes it's a larger dinner size. So that we can pull those out. And again, that's 1 less meal I have to cook. So if you think about, if I put away a meal or 2 every week, that ends up being a meal or 2 every week I don't actually have to cook, because I can pull it out of the freezer if I need to. So there's that. Then hack number 8 is using frozen veggies. So I love saving time on cutting up veggies, because I just don't love cutting veggies. I know some people it's like really therapeutic, and that is not me. And frozen veggies are actually a lot of times even fresher, because they're able to be frozen right away, than the actual like fresh veggies. And so you can actually get some more nutrients sometimes in the frozen veggies than you can in the fresh veggies. So I'm all about getting some frozen broccoli, green beans, cauliflower, carrots, whatever, and having them frozen and dump and go, steam those things, whatever you're making your meal prep with, if you can. So frozen veggies saves time. It's generally not that expensive, especially if you go to Aldi or Wegmans or somewhere like that. Frozen veggies can get pretty cheap. So I highly recommend doing that. Now, number 9 is using the delayed start and the programmable features on your appliances. So an obvious one, a lot of people have programmable crock pots and Instant Pots. So we're used to maybe those 2, programming them to, cook for 8 hours or whatever. But the delayed start feature is like one of my new favorites. And by new, I mean, for some reason I didn't do this till like the last 2 years, and I'm in love with it, okay? You also, most of us have the delayed start feature on your oven and on your microwave. And so, for example, today I put rice in the Instant Pot, set it to delay so that it would start cooking and be ready at dinner time. I put some chicken legs in the oven, not super early because obviously you don't want, meat to get funky. But I put it in and set it to start cooking like 30 minutes later, and, could leave that be. And then I had stuff on the stove. But I've also done it where I'll have something microwaved, like I steam a bag of veggies. So I might have the meat, I might have my rice or whatever in the Instant Pot, my meat in the oven, my steamed bag of veggies in the microwave, and then we go for a walk and come back at dinner time and it's all beeping at me and done. So I highly recommend checking out your delayed start features and your programmable features. And then last one, number 10, have 2 to 3 meals that you always have the ingredients for. I actually saw somebody call them rescue meals. I thought that was a good term. So I'll steal it from her. So things like spaghetti and meat sauce. If you've got ground beef, tomato sauce, and pasta, and just always keep those, then you can make spaghetti and meat sauce. Throw in some frozen veggies, make it even healthier. Peanut butter and jelly, smoothies, keep some protein powder or some frozen fruit, just kind of like basics for smoothies. And then if you have nothing else in the house, you can make a smoothie. You can make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You can make whatever your kind of go-to meal is, so that you're never put in a spot where you truly have to go eat fast food. Nothing against some fast food, but you're not in a position where you have to go do that because there's nothing in the house. And having 2 or 3 options, because, it happens often enough in motherhood that you need other options. So yeah, those are my top 10 hacks. So reviewing them real quick. Number 1 is plan your meals so that you know when you're going to prep or what you need to prep. Number 2 is consider your calendar and your schedule in your meal prep. So think about what you've got going on that day and decide on the meals based on what you have going on, and also schedule in the meal prep time as part of your schedule so you don't run out of time to actually prep the meal. Number 3, strategize to include your kids or don't, but know going into it kind of which one you want to do. Number 4, pre-cut or prep ingredients that you can freeze or store for later, whether that's in the freezer or the refrigerator. Anything you can do ahead of time in a big chunk to kind of time block your cutting and prepping time and save time for later. Also, number 5, prepare a few rounds of freezer meals and have those in your freezer. You can make a bunch of them at once and then, pull them out once a month even and have one meal you don't have to cook. Number 6, fall in love with your crock pot and your Instant Pot and use them so that you don't have to be doing last minute cooking at all times. Number 7, batch cook and freeze the extra and make sure that you've got some set aside again so that you can pull it out and you don't have to cook as often. Number 8, use frozen veggies. Number 9, and frozen fruit too. Number 9, use the delayed start and programmable features on your appliances. And then number 10, have 2 or 3 meals that you just always have the ingredients for. So I hope that helps. I hope you're excited about these top 10 tips. I hope they're helpful to you. Please comment in the comments and let me know which ones you like, which ones you want to try. And please let me know what other things that you do because I am always looking to improve myself. So it's always good to have new tips and tricks. And then the one final thing, be sure and check out the Master Your Menu course that I've got on using Trello to grocery shop on a budget and meal plan on a budget. It helps you to streamline your meal planning so that it only takes you about 15 minutes a week. And I usually can shop in 30 minutes or less a week as well and get all of my ingredients for a week. So it saves a lot of time, makes it much easier, and saves a lot of money. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I will talk to you all later.